field blast off, watch them all fall. This is AFC North Talk. Got me hype, it's about to be a touchdown. Got the Ravens, Steelers, Bengals, and the Browns. Are you listening? It's time to get it hype. Tune in when the season poppin'. Yeah, we going live. Hey, knock 'em out. Ay, first down, going hard. Yes, indeed. AFC North Talk. Let's go. Hey, AFC North Talk.
What's going on, guys? I've been missing the show. I've been missing AFC North Talk. We are back. I know a lot of people are like, what happened to y'all? Like, we took a little break. We take the break every year at the same time. One in February and one in July, right? Like, that's what we do. But nothing really has happened since we left. Training camp's about to kick. And I know you guys are wanting to see those rankings. I know
DeAndre Hopkins still is not on this.
Yeah, I mean, we're not supposed to do these rankings until DeAndre Hopkins signed. Just an FYI.
Yeah. We were gonna do the wide receiver ranking, and I think we said like let's wait because D-Hop is out there, the Ravens, the Browns, right? That there's rumblings who might bring D-Hop. D-Hop's still out there. Cook is still out there. Who knows?
D-Hop is just waiting until like training camp closes and he doesn't have to go to he doesn't have to go to camp. I mean,
I would say this. That's
what's happening.
On the D-Hop perspective, the Cardinals did him dirty because if they saw that there's no trade. Right, they should have cut him earlier. I think the Ravens might have signed him before Odell, but since they committed the money to Odell, I don't think they were gonna sign both.
Well, he's in the Jadeveon Clowney zone, where it's like he probably just not gonna sign a deal until like what we get to. When does it start to cool down in camp? Like a little bit of mid-August?
Yeah, like it's gonna be like the second, third week of August where it's like, all right, now we're in. D-Hop could actually sign.
He might even do the Ndamukong Suh where he's just like, hey, who gonna make the playoffs? Who clinched? All right, let me sign with Philly. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
man. But what I read was that he's still looking for same thing with Cook, right? They're still looking for a decent amount of like Sue was like, okay, I'll work for whatever. But that's not D-Hop or Cook.
Oh, yeah, Dalvin Cook is still out there. I forgot about Dalvin Cook.
See, look, D-Hop would do that. Dalvin Cook ain't got enough money in the bank to be out here just waiting and shopping a deal. I guess that's why he has to shop a deal, but I don't know.
He signed no. Dalvin Cook signed a second contract, right?
Yeah,
he signed a second contract.
He signed a second contract, so he has some money.
Yeah, finish it though.
He has some money.
Wait, Zeke's not on the team yet either, right?
No. Zeke should not be employed.
I don't know.
Wow.
He's going to be
for a while.
He was rumored to be on 2 AFC North teams this year.
Look.
He'll end up signing with the Ravens. Like, let's be honest, he'll end up signing with the Ravens. Like,
because like it's a perfect storm.
Yeah,
One,
the
Ravens are definitely like not deep enough there, and then two, J.K. Dobbins is gonna get hurt. Like, you know what I mean?
No offense, Ravens fans, but occasionally your players do get hurt for the entire year.
No offense, but like usually on the offensive side of the ball, you start somebody off the street eventually by like week 5.
Exactly.
It's happened like the last 4 years.
Somebody that was good in 2016. They're go back.
Devontae Freeman. You know what I mean? They've had the 2016 All-Stars, like, Odell Beckham.
Like Le'Veon Bell was there for like
somebody look up the 2016 Pro Bowl roster and you'll find the next running back for the Ravens if they lose somebody, whoever was starting.
They're productive. That's all.
Marion Barber up to these days.
Will Mike call?
He doesn't play receiver. They usually only go that old for receiver, Tony. You know what I mean? Hey, Terrell Owens still in shape.
You remember former Broncos quarterback? I'm blanking his name.
Brock Osweiler.
Cutler. You know how Cutler got cut call? He was in the Fox booth and he got called to play for Miami, I think it was. Yeah. We might do the same thing with Ingram. Hey, Ingram, you know what? You want and run it again? Why not? Why?
Wow. I would rather have Zeke for the record.
I'd rather have none of them. Anyway,
Dalvin Cook is much too young to play for the Ravens.
Yeah, no, that's not happening.
R.I.P. Marion Barber. No,
what's LeGarrette Blount doing? Is a conversation.
Oh my God, I totally forgot about that.
Hey, you former Steeler Blount.
That's my bad, Ace.
You're good,
that's E1.
You're
Sorry.
Good. Silent Wolf here with a super chat. Shout out to you, man. Thank you. We back. Go Browns. See, the only problem with reading the super
that's
chat.
a hell of a super chat, by the way. Appreciate that.
$20.
Yeah.
Go Browns.
But I was gonna say the problem with reading super chats for me is when I have to say stuff like that, or somebody puts
No,
that.
you carefully ignore that certain part of that.
And who they Joe Power says Taylor Swift owns Pittsburgh over Steelers records numbers. What?
But she break the Pittsburgh Stadium record.
I'm gonna guess that that's attendance.
Yeah.
Attendance
probably.
must be the attendance record.
Hey, look, I'm gonna make it very clear here. AFC North's official position on Taylor Swift is we don't want that smoke with the Swifties. All right, we are all along with them. The Beyonce fans, we with you too.
Britney Spears fans are also kind of
fans,
vicious.
we got no problems with y'all, dog. We will not be having any of that smoke. I've seen how y'all get down. Y'all find people in real life. We're good. We're good. Taylor Swift is awesome.
Dude, I don't know if you guys remember. We talked about Tyler Heineke one day. We were talking about in one of our, Tyler Heineke, and we start getting bots for Taylor Swift. Do you remember that episode? Not only bots,
yeah, of course.
They were super chatting, like songs from the Swifties. I was like, what? That's like a next level.
Leave it alone. Gotta leave it alone. We good. We want a career still, right? Like
Right.
we good. Taylor Swift's 21. That's a good song. I think that's the name of it, right? It's 21.
No, that's your thing. I think you're thinking of Adele. I think that's an album by Adele. I'm pretty sure.
No, 22. It's 22. 22.
22.
Look at 22. It's great. It's great. I've heard it around.
Oh my God, my wife will be so proud to hear this segment right now. Anyway,
shout out Taylor Swift.
Welcome back,
we have a Swiftie adjacent person on the show. Leave us alone, Swifties. We good. Sell it out.
And Quincy. JK, love ya, Quincy. Almost time for football. Let's go. Oh my God, I can't wait for football to be officially.
I caught myself watching 3-week-old highlights of the USFL championship game.
Ooh, down bad.
Yeah, boy.
This is nasty season though. I started DVR at college football games already. I'm like, I'm gonna want to DVR that. I pre-DVR we're 3 months away. I pre-DVR games in like December. I'm like, I need to make sure that next year during this time, if I want to see Alabama LSU, I could watch it.
Yeah, we're actually for those of you who are college fans, we are like 6 weeks away from the start of the college season.
And we're 7 weeks away from my Youngstown State Penguins upset at the century. Put your money on it. Throw your bets on it. YSU, take the over and take YSU over Ohio State in the shoe. I'm debating on whether I want to be there for such a historic moment. Marvin Harrison is going to do some nasty things.
Yeah, Marvin. Yeah.
I hope he don't play.
He might pull a Jackson Smith and Jigba and just
Hey, but if Marvin Harrison doesn't play, then who they got at Ohio State? A bunch of dudes who are better than us. You know what I mean?
I mean, they got a couple good players. I think they got a couple good players.
You know what I mean? But we still gonna do it.
So, saying that, we're ranking wide receivers today. I got Bengal fans all over my mentions as soon as we announced it was the wide receiver show. Okay, let's get a run.
I don't think you put the Bengals one at any category yet.
Look, I have a spreadsheet right now.
Yeah, give the spreadsheet up because you definitely didn't for quarterback. I remember this because you made the argument for depth at quarterback.
That is
that was a nasty argument. I'm as pro Lamar Jackson as anybody on this show, and I was even like, "Dog, that's crazy."
If all 4 quarterbacks go down, all 4.
Right.
Now,
I mean, like the Ravens do have a better third string. That's true. Which is better than having a Joe Burrow. Like having 3 good quarterbacks is better than having Joe Burrow.
No, because the gap between Lamar and Joe Burrow is not big. It's not that big. I acknowledge.
Well, this is again, you and I disagree on that, but.
Okay, let's
wait, Tony, though, what about the gap between Tyler Huntley and Joe Burrow? Like that's not that big of a gap, right?
That's not that big. No.
Yeah,
right.
It's the same gap, no matter if you got your starter or backup. It's like pitchers, Tony. You can't just have an ace, right? Like
Okay.
You gotta have
that's right. You gotta call the bullpen in.
Yeah, you gotta call the bullpen. You gotta have a 5th man on the rotation. Sometimes you just gotta have a closer. Shout out Justin Tucker.
Okay, so we can address this question maybe later. But if the Browns acquire how unlikely, but where will they be?
The same spot they would be without.
That would make it interesting because
they would go above someone.
You would have D-Hop, you would have Amari Cooper, and you'd have Elijah Moore, which I think that's a pretty good 3 to have, right?
Yeah.
It's a good 3 to have.
Whoa. where's the respect for Donovan Peoples-Jones?
Oh,
yards last year, y'all.
Yeah,
and Tree Archer. Tree Archer. Don't put
okay. He might not.
By the way, Sonny, very much appreciate that. That is very appreciated. That is very appreciated.
Follow the trend of players naming fave T Swift song.
So they want us to name our favorite T. I don't know any of her songs.
I don't think I can name it off.
So I'm just gonna say Shake It
Off.
Off.
She did Shake It Off. Did she have that one song too, where it's like "You belong"? Do you belong to me? Right? Where she, that's the one that Kanye walked up in front of her and was like, "I'm gonna let you finish."
Okay, I have a fun story. I'm gonna give a parenthesis here. I remember I went to Disney World, right? And you know, when you go to the Disney parks, at least in my family, it's like, let's wake up at 6 a.m. so we can be there early and blah, 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 right? So I turn on the TV, and every morning there's this girl, it's a video, right? I'm putting MTV in this girl's video. And I didn't know who she was. And it was Taylor Swift. It was that song, Quincy. And I remember telling back then my girlfriend, now my wife, it's like, do you know this girl? By now, I know this song because every morning I'm listening to this damn song. So I guess I'll put the same one that Q just said. You belong with me. Yeah, I'll put that. I think it's old.
Did you just hipster us with Taylor Swift? I like Taylor Swift before she was cool?
Yeah, he did. He did.
Yeah, I'm assuming she was
before they even had the term Swifty. You know, they were Swifters before. He was the original Swifter. Yeah.
I apologize, Sonny, but
Sonny got some poked out 3D glasses. You know what I mean? Back there.
No, I'm just saying that song. I remember listening to it.
Gotcha.
I mean, it was number one on Billboard. I'm pretty sure everybody listened to it at some point.
Yeah,
but you were the original Swiftie. You got her mixtapes.
I know, but my wife does. Noah Stone here says Taylor Swift owns the Steelers just like Tom Brady. Okay,
excuse me. Can you pick it 1? Tom Brady 0.
We need to.
In fact, you could argue.
I gotta get Nova Stone's thoughts on Kim K and Tom Brady. Let's hear.
Oh, that's true.
Oh, is that a thing?
That's a thing.
That's a thing.
Yeah, man.
Allegedly.
Look, I feel bad for we always talk about how hard it is to grow up and be young in this generation where everything's recorded. But we don't think about the people going through midlife crisis in this generation when we find out about it. You know what I mean? Now we finding out all of Tom's midlife crisis stuff that he's doing right now, which includes dating Kim Kardashian. That was not on my bingo card. Did not have that.
Never have that one.
Do you think Kim Kardashian does the TB12 routine?
Nah.
You think
No way.
That's another routine, but not a TV show.
You don't think it's just avocado shakes and kale? You know what I mean? 13 important grains. I don't know.
Okay, so number 4.
I was on a tightrope on that one, boy.
Yeah. Ace, I'm gonna go with you. Give me your 4.
Oh man. This is tougher than it's been in previous years.
Well, honestly, I will before we do this, right? I mean, I think everyone would say that their room has been upgraded year over year.
For sure.
Everyone.
I mean, can we? Well,
okay, I got it.
The Ravens have upgraded their room.
I mean, the Ravens have upgraded their room. I mean, come on.
If your car has no doors and you get doors for your car,
your car
is that an upgrade or is that bringing it up to cold? You know what I mean?
So I think I got it now. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens here, and the reason why is because I don't know what OBJ they're getting, right? Even OBJ in Cleveland wasn't the same OBJ that he was in New York. So based off of that, his injury history, I'm going to put them there, but I think that they are a rising potentially team in this division with that position because of the offense that they play in. It's built to put playmakers in space. They have playmakers. Zay Flowers, I think Zay Flowers is going to be a better version of what Hollywood Brown was. And I think someone else said this as well.
Yeah.
I may be on board with it. Usually I don't like doing this with rookies, but someone said that Zay Flowers at the end of the year could be the better receiver or be better than Odell Beckham Jr. And I could see that potentially happening. Rashad Bateman, I like him as well. My only issue with Bateman is staying healthy. So you got two guys that really have health issues in OBJ and Rashad Bateman, which makes it a little bit of a gamble. But I do like Zay Flowers. So it's not a bad group. I don't think any of the groups in this division are bad. I just would slightly give it to the Ravens just based off of the health and where OBJ is. Now, if this is OBJ from, one-handed catch and he's doing crazy stuff, which has been a while. I mean, he showed flashes in the Super Bowl. He showed flashes, and maybe it's like Jordan on the Wizards where you get a flash every now and then, but he's not going to go back to that exact guy. Kind of like when he pinned Ron Mercer off of the backboard in that game. So I'm gonna go with the Ravens, man. I'm gonna go with the Ravens. I do think that they upgraded. I'm glad that they finally did, because for years I feel like we've been on here saying get Lamar weapons. They did get Lamar weapons. It'll be interesting to see how they play in the system, how they get together. I did see Lamar and OBJ working out. Obviously they are working out, but there was like actual film of it happening as well. So we'll see what that chemistry looks like. I feel like that was always the issue with Baker and OBJ. It's like they never got the chance to kind of form that chemistry. OBJ was always recovering from an injury or something like that, and they just never got to get on the same page. So until I see it, I got the Ravens at number 4.
Okay. Tony.
Yeah, I also have the Ravens 4 now. Okay, I know Ravens fans are going to get mad at this because they're going to think they deserve to be one higher here. But look, the thing with the Ravens this is the best Ravens wide receiver room since we started this show, right? I mean, we started this show when it was Hollywood and Willie Snead and that was probably
we started the show the year before Hollywood.
Was Crabtree still on the team?
Was it Crabtree and probably the guy that used to be on the Cardinals, Brown?
Oh, John Brown was not.
John Brown.
That was like
but that's not when we did this show. We didn't do this show then. Yeah. So look, this is an upgraded room. I mean, no doubt about it. This is the best Ravens wide receiver room they've had in a long time. I mean, I would probably go back to like Steve Smith era to have a room this good. Here's the problem with the room. Who do you trust out of their top 3? So their top 3 are Rashad Bateman, Odell Beckham, Zay Flowers. Okay. The NFL started playing 17-game season 2 years ago. Rashad Bateman's been in the league for 2 seasons. Rashad Bateman has played 19 games out of the 34 regular season games they've played. So I know it's unfair when we do these rankings, talk about injuries, because
it's fair. It is fair.
I mean, I think with Rashad, it's definitely fair. With Odell, I mean, like the last time we saw this guy was in the Super Bowl 2 years ago. Now, I thought this signing was good for the Ravens because I think they could they use a resurgence of an Odell, And then their next best player is Zay Flowers, who is a rookie. And I think he's an exciting rookie, and he can bring some real playmaking. And with Lamar's arm and how good he is at those deep shots, I mean, this could be a real X factor for them. They could end up being the second best group in the division. But there's a lot of things that got to go. I mean, we talk about tightropes that you got to walk. You got to walk a hell of a tightrope for this thing to get to number 2, because you need Bateman to stay healthy and be good, and Odell to stay healthy and be good, and Zay Flowers to come in and be good. And they have some. They do have some depth this year too. I mean, Devin Duvernay is a fine player. I'm glad we never have to hear about James Prochet again. They have Nelson Aguilar's on this team. He's a player in the league. Andy Isabella's on the team. He was a fun prospect. He's a fun
Tony,
as well.
Tony, I have an interest. Who do you think is more productive, Allen Robinson or Nelson Aguilar? Because at this point, they're kind of like the same.
I think Allen Robinson outproduces every player on the Ravens but one. Maybe.
Wow.
Allen Robinson.
You think Allen Robinson's going to have 400 receiving?
Wait, Tony. Allen Robinson is what, wide receiver 2 or 3, right?
Well,
I'm telling
it depends on who you believe out of minicamp, right? I mean, I don't want to like read too much into minicamp reports.
My point is, it's one of those two, either
2 or 3. Yeah,
exactly. Nelson Aguilar for the Ravens, either 4 or 5.
Well, that's why I said I think Allen Robinson outproduces every Ravens receiver other than 1 or 2.
I mean, that's fair if he's the second receiver and Steelers.
I gotta get an Allen Robinson shirt. I mean, an Allen Robinson like watch page. Like,
this would be
or a thread. I might have to open a Threads account dedicated to the Allen Robinson watch. You know, how many yards did he
We're
have?
back. No, the Allen Robinson watch is over. He's all the way back. If you believe the reports from minicamp.
He was gonna have fun this season. He was gonna have so much fun this season. Allen Robinson.
Look, as an avid Allen Robinson watcher. Yeah. He's had good mini camps. He always has good mini camps. You know what I mean?
You know what I mean? It's like a pressure. It's like pressure to set.
I will say this:
have a good season, you gotta have a good mini camp.
Throwing him the ball is the worse the quarterback throwing Allen Robinson the ball is, the more productive. So you might be onto something.
Listen, you know what? We shall.
So you have the Ravens fourth, Tony.
I have the Ravens. Yeah, I mean, look, first of all, it's not a bad room. It's just not a bad room. I don't know who the hell I can trust in this room.
It's good to be back.
Yeah.
Okay, cute.
I got the Ravens here at 4. And look, all jokes aside, the reason I have the Ravens here at 4 is I look at this wide receiver roster, and there's not a single person at wide receiver. And we're ranking only wide receivers here, right?
Yeah, we already did
at wide receiver that I'm like, okay, I feel really good about that guy being like the number. Well, not just feel really good. I feel like I can depend on them because they've done it consistently in the past. It's a lot of I hope, or he should, or maybe if he can, right? If we're talking about Odell, hey, if he could get back to what he looked like 2 years ago before he had an ACL surgery, and maybe he looks better because he was able to more properly heal the injury, then that's going to be a big piece for him. But that's a lot of ifs that go into that for a player who's 32 years old and has had a litany of major injuries throughout the second half of his career. I mean, it's been like ever since he made that catch, there was 2 years where he was healthy. And then even his last year in New York, all the way up to his entire stay in Cleveland and even in LA, have been marred by injuries of some kind. Ankle, knee, all kind of lower extremity injuries have kind of plagued his career that make me concerned about him being in a prominent role. I like some of the guys they have there. Rashad Bateman, Zay Flowers, those are guys I like, but those are not yet proven guys there. You look at the division on the other side of this, you have more proven names. Like, it's just guys who have produced more consistently throughout the years that are in those spots for those other teams. So this Ravens roster, like, look, it's not the dumpster fire that it was last year. Because that was it was like kind of like how the Browns defensive tackle just wasn't NFL quality for most of the year. This is what they were working with most of the year. And you know what? They did a lot with that, considering what they did not have at wide receiver last year. So I give them credit for that. That being said, I think I wouldn't use good as a way to describe this wide receiver room, but I do think it's sufficient. It's not malpractice worthy, right? Like, somebody shouldn't be fired because this is the room you put together. Like, it's sufficient. And this is the first time I would go all the way back to like Hollywood Brown. I think that was a good wide receiver room when we look at it retrospectively. Hollywood Brown, you know, he had a couple 1,000-yard years, or at least close to 1,000-yard years there. And then Willie Snead was a little underrated in the role that he had there. And then you had Mark Andrews. Like, I felt like they had some decent weapons there, Lamar's first and second year. But I think this is probably the best it's been since that. Is it better? I don't know. It has the potential to be. Odell Beckham could be back to form. Zay Flowers could look good. And then Rashad Bateman, if those three guys pan out, yeah, it looks great. You know, then it's a good room. But at this moment right now, there's just a whole lot of maybe this can happen. I kind of hope that instead of saying, like, I know that these guys are going to be producing. Like, if we were doing tight ends, same argument in reverse. But when we did tight ends, same argument in reverse with David Njoku. I can't rank them off of potential because Mark Andrews has actually done what I hope David Njoku has done. Other wide receivers have done what I want, or what you would want the Ravens wide receivers to produce this year in this division. So that's just where they're at. There's no shame in that. Y'all ain't gotta get mad at me for that. That's just where y'all at, man. It's sufficient, dog. Like, we'll see what happens during the season. It could get better, but that's just where y'all at, Raven fans.
Okay.
All right, Sonny. So you've heard the prosecution statement. Now your defense.
The prostitution statement or the prosecution? I'm like, I know you're in Florida, but dog.
Hey, out down here, man.
Okay. So I see everybody's down on the Ravens receiver again.
No,
another year.
We were all down.
What? Come on, Sonny. Down.
last year.
We're just comparing them to the rest of their peers.
Yeah.
I think if you were to say, give me 32 teams, I think the Ravens probably are in the top 16.
They got better from
Top
last
20.
year.
Let's go top 20.
Okay.
Top
so
20?
let me start. Let me start saying who my fourth is. My fourth is the Ravens.
Okay, let's go.
He's down on the Ravens.
Yeah, wow.
Get them, Raven fans. Get them, Flock Nation.
This is the reason. I will say now. Wait. I'm gonna wait for the kills now. Was I happy with the OBJ signing? I was happy. You didn't see me throwing cartwheels here, right? I was happy as we signed him. I did think we overpaid for Odell. I would prefer a guy like D-Hop because I think D-Hop has been more consistent throughout his career versus OBJ. The reality is, remember what I said, Tony? I know Tony remembers. I wasn't here for that show, but do you remember what I said about the Steelers O-line?
This year?
Yeah. Do you remember?
Like a lot of potential?
Exactly. So I said, like, I ranked them 4, but I can see them all going, in the case of the Steelers, I said like, to 2 or 1 if they all gel, right? I don't think the Ravens can go to 1. But I can see them, if they gel the right way, to go to 2. The problem with the Ravens here is a lot of things that you guys have acknowledged is injuries. OBJ, what OBJ you're getting, right? How consistent is he going to be? How many games you're going to get with him? The number one receiver for this team, if everybody's healthy, is Bateman. But the same thing with Bateman. I love Bateman. I love Bateman when he's in the field. And you can see people talk about the dip. The dip of the Ravens offense really happened when Bateman went out for the year, right? When you make Duvernay now play as the number 1, number 2 receiver. Duvernay was playing really good when he was your third option, right? As soon as he was basically had to play number 1, he completely disappeared, right? So now, if you have Bateman healthy, which is a if, this is to Q's point, that's a if you have Odell healthy, right, with limited snaps, you can have him in limited snaps, right? And you have, say, Flowers, now you get a guy, and Duvernay, he can be your number 4, right? So he can come in spots to relieve guys. And I think he will be excelling in that position. A guy like Nelson Aguilar also, right? A guy that he can be your wide receiver 5. I think that's great. And for that specific role, right? That he gets snaps so people can be fresh. I don't remember this team having the depth. And that I think that will be, and they're hoping because they know OBJ can get hurt. It's probably likely he will get some hurt. Hopefully not. But history tells you he might get a couple games here out. Bateman, same. He might be a couple games out. So now with the depth, at least you're not throwing bodies. You have at least competent NFL receivers in the field at every play. I like the room. Do I love it? We'll see. I think they have the potential. My whole thing is I think they have the potential and they're proven guys versus other years. I think they have the potential with unproven guys. The only unproven guy is Say Flowers. I love Say Flowers in the draft. I didn't like his size, but I love his tenacity. I love his demeanor. I love his aggressiveness. If that translates to the NFL game, I think he'll be a really good receiver this year for the Ravens. So I think, it will be unfair because the team that I have third has at least a guy that is consistent, right? Versus for us, where's our consistency? None of these guys have been.
I think I know who your number 3 is now because you wouldn't say that about a player on my team. I do think, staying on the Ravens though. The other thing we should say is like this is not. It's not just like they threw a bunch of receivers together. I do think this is a well-built room from a what you want. If you go to the Kyle Shanahan, like you want to build your wide receiver room like you build a basketball team.
They got positions, within it. There's a structure. You have guys who are clearly marked for X. You have guys who are clearly marked for Z and in his slot in X versatility. Like it's a well laid out room.
Yeah. If they stay healthy. If they live
up to expectations, it could be pretty good.
Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's pivot to 3. Ace.
And you ain't got to worry about a dip at quarterback.
I want to hear somebody else's number 3 first. Let's switch it up.
Throw it to the 2 people who are competing for a 2 and 3.
Mm-hmm.
Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Okay, Q. Who's your 3?
Y'all didn't think I would put Allen Robinson at number 2. Come on now. I know y'all didn't think that. Like, come on. There are 3 specific.
You put Allen Robinson number 1?
They're going 3 here. Pittsburgh Steelers going 3. Because they have Allen Robinson.
Exactly. This drives the room down. Really drives the room down.
Well, I think they're an interesting room. I think they have some interesting players in this room. My issue with Allen Robinson was never that like he can't play receiver in the NFL. It was that I think people valued him way more than what he actually was given. I thought his numbers weren't necessarily matching up to what kind of receiver he actually was when it came to impact on winning. And I think in a spot where he's not asked to be the number 1 or 2 receiver, he could probably be. I'm like no joking, but like 400 yard, maybe 3 touchdown guy. That's work. That's good work for a wide receiver 3 or 4. You know what I mean? So he could probably be there.
He had more than that last year.
Okay, 500, whatever. What did he have last year?
Last year he had 339 and 3 touchdowns.
What's the highest he's had since that big season he had?
Well, he only played 12 games, but he had
okay. So I thought 500 was accurate. 500 was accurate. Why are you debating this with me? You know the truth.
He's only played 2 quarters of the season. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I mean, if he barely plays 2 quarters of a season every year, then I assume maybe something might pop up this year. But 504, and he's Allen Robinson. He could just disappear for them 4 games if he don't play in them 4 games. Like, let's be real. He's done this before. Shout out to A-Rob. I've gotten great content off of the back of A-Rob disappearing in the middle of the season.
Not in the division.
Some of our best clips are because I realized A-Rob disappeared for 4 games and wasn't hurt. But yeah, if you look at the room, George Pickens is interesting because there's obviously like a lot of potential there, and there's obviously a baseline there for what you're going to get out of George Pickens. He's kind of at what I would like to call, when I'm referring to a Pittsburgh Steelers, what was the dude that y'all have for Clemson? Freak. What was his name? He's in the XFL now.
Martavis Bryant.
He's at the Martavis Bryant crossroads of his career. Is he going to be just a deep threat, kind of like a freaky wide receiver that could be like a special attraction? Or is he going to develop into like a more thorough route tree, precise kind of killer as a wide receiver on top of the things that he can add with his unbelievable athletic ability and his framing? I don't know what that's going to be. Deontay Johnson's also interesting because like he puts up decent like production, but like, I don't know, man. It's just something about Deontay that
he is what he is.
Yeah, it's just.
He is what he is now.
It's
not a roller coaster. The roller coaster's over. He just is what he is now.
Yeah, it's just. I think it's a little underwhelming for a number 1 wide receiver, I would say there, right? I think George Pickens has all the like sizzle that you would want out of a number 1 receiver, but I don't know if his skill set allows him to be as consistently as productive as you want a true one to be. So that's why I would put them there. I just feel better about. Like it's obvious who's the one. I feel better about the team that I'm putting at 2's ability to kind of produce. I think they're just a little bit deeper in some areas. I think the Steelers have a fine wide receiving room. And if we're looking back at this in production, quarterback play might be something that affects this. I feel a little bit better about one team's quarterback play versus another team's quarterback play, or at least the ability for these guys to get production in the structure of their offense, given that I don't think the Steelers are going to be throwing even as much as they did last year. So that's where I'm at with them. I just don't know what to do with Deontay Johnson. Like, for a while, it felt like he was on an upward trajectory, but last 2 years, it just felt like he's plateaued at where he's at. And where he's at isn't necessarily a super great place. George Pickens, though, that's the wild card. If he comes out here and looks like he's added to that tree and become not just a guy who can get you a big play every once in a while, but somebody you can rely on 3rd and 9 or something like that. Okay. Yeah. Then the pieces kind of fit into place a little bit better. But yeah, that's all I can really say about Pittsburgh. And then, you got Allen Robinson back there. So he's going to probably drop a couple touchdowns.
One thing to correct here on your Martavis versus George Pickens comparison. The NFL has changed its substance abuse policy since Martavis.
I don't worry about George Pickens with substance abuse.
Well, you shouldn't, because the rules are different.
Regular abuse. Like, he just might get into a fight.
Martavis didn't make it because the NFL had a very strict policy at the time. And, Martavis.
Well, I think also with Martavis, too, even when he came back with the Raiders, when he had his second run in the NFL, he just never really developed more than what he was naturally, right? Like, he was always just a deep threat, kind of like a guy who could, and that was his problem at Clemson. He was never really interested in becoming a more skilled wide receiver than what he had the gifts to be naturally. I'm wondering if that's going to be the case with George Pickens. Will he want to develop those skills to become more skilled, or is he good on, kind of like just living off of what he has naturally, which he will get pretty good play. He's really good naturally as a wide receiver. But I just want to see if he could become that consistent, like, midfield guy. They've lost something without having somebody like a Juju Smith-Schuster on this roster, who was kind of their reliable go-to on third down, kind of to a negative for them, but they've kind of lost that. They don't have that right now. And I think that's what concerns me about them a little bit. Well, they kind of got their tight end for that, but that's hard to figure in these rankings.
Yeah. Noah Stone here says Joe always had top wide receivers. Imagine with Tom Brady's wide receivers in New England. I was seeing Joe Montana.
Dodge the Kim K question. I see.
Joe Burrow.
He's
When's Joe Burrow gonna date Kylie Jenner? We need to start that clock. You know what I mean?
Also, the whole Tom Brady never had receivers thing. I mean, Tom Brady had the kind of receivers that he enjoyed playing with, which were shifty guys.
Remember Randy
Moss? Did towards the end of his career. I mean, he had Randy Moss, he had Mike Evans, he had Chris Godwin. I mean, he got
even on the years where it was like
Edelman in the Hall of Fame.
Yeah, I mean, like they had Wes Welker, he had Edelman. You know what I mean? Like Danny Amendola had good years there. People forget about, like, Chris Hogan was a good receiver there. Again, like the kind of receiver that
it was always the same small, shifty guy.
He came a long way from David Givens. We'll just say that he kind of
Moss was the only one that put that mold.
And, like, let's be real tier 2. Like, Joe Burrow just got into the league to a point to where it's like, oh, his help is going to be as highlighted as him. But by the time Tom got to, like, the second half of his career, it didn't matter if you had 3 great wide receivers around Tom. The story was going to be about Tom more than it was going to be about anything else. So it's like those guys just didn't get the same profile, but they're good. Like, he had good receivers. Why do people act like Tom was playing on trash teams? And what
he also had Rob Gronkowski.
He had Bill Belichick. He was in a fortunate situation. He was really good. He took advantage of it. We don't got to make this more than, why we got to make it rags to riches like he won 12 Super Bowls with, like, the 2005 Browns. Like, it's not what happened.
Noah Stone here also says Bengals 1, Ravens 2, Browns 3, Steelers 4. Who's Pitt's number 1? And then we get
that's nasty. You gonna put the Ravens over both the Browns and the Steelers, brother? Like, that's crazy.
OBJ/Bateman over Deontay/Pickens or just Amari Cooper. That's from Who They Joe Power. Okay, Tony, you want to go ahead and give them?
I'll go. I mean, I am obviously the opposite of Q here. I have the Browns 3, Steelers 2. I think for me, it's the Browns have a nice number 1 in Amari, and I think depending on how you feel about George Pickens and his development year over year. Sure, you can make the argument that the Browns have a better number 1, but I think the room overall, I think the Steelers have a better room. Elijah Moore, as we said at the time, I think is directionally correct. But it's not like Elijah Moore's coming in as this, like, super productive, sure thing type of receiver. I think he's a very talented player who could be good, right? But we go back to the Ravens room, right? We knock them for, like, well, what could they be? I think there's a lot of that in this room for, like, what could they be? Especially, I think there's a lot of rating of this room. It's hard when you're doing a wide receiver room to separate the room from the quarterback, right? Because, like, when you think about Deshaun Watson, you think about, okay, if you believe the narrative that last year was just a blip for Deshaun Watson, he's going to go back, right? He's in there somewhere. And like, we're going to see that this year. Then, certainly you can imagine a lot of the players in this room, like, being far more productive than they've been. Even guys like DPJ. They also brought in, like, Marquise Goodwin. They drafted Cedric Tillman. they have Jakeem Grant, who I think they're probably going to use as a returner more. But Jakeem Grant was a player on the Dolphins that I liked. So like they have a good room. I just think after you get through Amari Cooper, it's like, okay, DPJ, I've liked DPJ for a while. I've said DPJ was their best receiver for a while, but he, much like I would say about Deontay, like he's never really like DPJ. I thought could end up being like, oh, he could be a top guy in this league, and he never got there. And same thing with Deontay. And obviously Deontay and DPJ are different levels. Like I thought Deontay could be like a top 5 receiver in this league. He ends up just being probably like a top 30. But yeah, I mean, I think for this room, I think the Steelers are probably more top heavy. And so, yeah, I think, for me, the Browns are the number 3 team.
Ace. So we have the bottom. Yeah, sorry. We have the bottom here. Ty says for me and you to break this tie. Who do you have at 3?
Yeah, I needed a minute to look at some of the numbers because this was a coin flip kind of decision for me. And I really kind of found myself doing the same practice that Tony just did. Because when I look at the number ones, I'm thinking Amari. I actually feel like even though Deontay should be number 1, it's more George Pickens. It kind of seems like George Pickens is kind of trending up. Deontay is trending down a little bit. And then you get to the question marks. I got question marks with Elijah Moore, right? I have question marks also with Allen Robinson. It's like which one of those guys do I trust more? So digging into the numbers, I had to look into them to figure out how good is DPJ. And when I looked at the yards per reception, DPJ averaged 13.8. Allen Robinson has averaged 10.8 one season, then went down to 10.3. And then I was surprised to see Deontay Johnson was at 10.3 as well last season. And obviously we know that he didn't have the touchdowns last season. I still feel like Deontay Johnson is better than DPJ, but it's like, how much is that? Is it by 0.5? Like, what is that number? And like Tony and Q said, if Deshaun Watson gets him the ball, is that going to bring him up? Could he be a 1,000-yard receiver? I'm not so sure, but they are trying to change, what they're doing there. So then it really just comes down to me between the third receivers. And I feel like I trust Elijah Moore a lot more than Allen Robinson at this moment in time, just because Allen Robinson's yards per carries are going down, or not yards per carry, yards per reception is going down. But the other thing too is I really like the rest of the Browns room a little bit more. Cedric Tillman was a guy that I really liked for the Bengals coming out. I've heard some really good things about Marquise Goodwin because I was doing some research on the division, and apparently, I mean, obviously they're just playing in shorts, but apparently he's looking pretty good. I was a fan of Jakeem Grant as well, that Tony pointed out when he was in Miami. And then when I look at the Steelers, I really like Calvin Austin, but I haven't seen him yet. I haven't seen him. Like, I expected him to be that third guy this season and be the guy that could take the top off of the defense. And, clearly it seems like they don't feel that way because they went and traded for Allen Robinson. So I don't know where he's at. Hakeem Butler, I just remember him being a random fantasy guy for the Cowboys. So I don't know if him and James Washington just traded places. They're just like, all right, you take my guy, we'll take your guy.
You're saying that Hakeem Butler is going to be a comeback player of the year?
Possibly. But I think Amari Cooper and Elijah Moore edge it out for me. So I got to put the Steelers 3 here. But like I said, it's a coin flip. I honestly went into this thinking I was going to put the Steelers at 2. And then when I really looked into it, I was like, man, I don't know. But I do think this could be the year where George Pickens really emerges and becomes one of the best receivers in the division from here. So this is going to be a big year for him. So we'll see. They could move up to number 2 by the end of the season.
One thing on Hakeem Butler, I watched the XFL and I was watching him and I was like, oh, I know what the training camp arc with Hakeem Butler is going to be. He's going to walk in there in pads that first day and people are going to be like, oh my God, he is 6'6". He is giant. He runs so fast. Oh my goodness, Hakeem Butler. And then he's going to get hot like that first couple of weeks. And we're like, hey, Hakeem Butler might get playing time. And then he's going to do the stuff that I saw him do in the XFL. That brother was dribbling footballs at times. Like he
Oh, okay. I thought this was the guy from. So this isn't even the guy that I thought that it was. It was a guy from the Cowboys that got in like some years ago. And
Hakeem Butler was playing on the Battlehawks. This brother, look, when he caught the ball, he looked great. When he caught the ball, he was great. But there were times you would watch the Battlehawks, and you were like, who is dribbling the football out there? It's number 88, Hakeem Butler, out there dribbling the ball. But them highlights look good. People gonna get excited about him. Tony, get ready to hear about it during camp. Oh, Hakeem Butler's looking awesome. Looking awesome.
I mean,
they're already starting.
That article has already been written.
I was thinking of Bryce Butler. That's who I was thinking of.
Bryce Butler. Oh, but Hakeem Butler, that's gonna be like he got Ola Adini written all over him before wide receiver. Like that's the type of dude that gets all the love in the camp, and then you wonder how they end up on the practice squad.
Listen, Ola's still out. Listen, Ola is still out there playing good football.
Tuzar Skipper, another XFL legend. You know,
I believe Tuzar is on the Steeler roster this year. Is he not?
He played his way back.
So. He was on last year.
No, he got traded. He got traded from the XFL. He got traded from the Seattle Dragons to the one of the teams in Dallas. I think the Renegades. And I watch too much football. That's what I just found out. Right?
Okay.
For a fourth round pick because they got those in the XFL draft now.
So for me, number 3, similar to y'all, it was hard. I'm gonna give 3 and 2 like everybody has been doing, right? So I had 3, the Browns, 2, the Steelers, and of all the like, if I put in a plot there and just throw all these receivers and a team, Amari Cooper is definitely the most consistent of all the receivers, right? And then the question is after that, right? You had DPJ. For me, is the second best receiver that the Browns have.
Higher than Elijah Moore?
Yeah, I think DPJ has been more, in my opinion, has been more consistent than Elijah Moore. Elijah Moore is a guy that I like coming out of the draft.
Yeah.
That has been underperform or underwhelming. And it could be because of Zach Wilson, maybe, potentially.
Those splits are crazy. Have you ever seen them?
The what?
His split, like when it's Zach Wilson throwing on the ball, he has like 100 yards, and then when it's like literally anybody else, he has like 600 or something like that. Like it's like, oh, the catch percentage is like up 30%. It's one of those like splits is like, yo, he can't be that bad. Like Zach Wilson can't be that bad.
Yeah, and
I get what you're saying, Sonny, because it seems like in my head it's like, nah, Elijah Moore had 1,000 yards before. He had like 800 yards. Yeah, he had
like 500.
It's like you look at the stats and you're like, hold on, what?
5 or 6, right? That's his max.
He had 500. What? Did he have 500 last year?
No, 2 years ago he had 500.
Yeah.
He had 500 his rookie year.
Yeah.
Yep.
So look, he can come in and kill it, right? The thing with him is he is into that point of his career that he is getting defined to whatever he is, right? So this is a big year for him. Yep. DPJ, I think, is a solid 2. He is a solid 2. I think the Browns receiving core, what Elijah Moore will come and do is, in my opinion, he's your 3, and he's gonna, and at least what I think they should use is more on the underneath to open the field for the other 2 on the outside. I think he is a great fit. I think it was a great trade, by the way. What they give for Elijah Moore was nothing. So it was a great trade.
Yeah.
My thing with the Steelers is, in the Steelers, for me, even though he's not consistent, Deontay Johnson is so pivotal for this team, because if Deontay Johnson can play on the higher side of how he plays, the other 2 are gonna play great, in my opinion. Then you elevate Pickens, and then you elevate Q's boy A-Rob. The problem with A-Rob here is where he is right now in his career. He's not a 1, right? That's been established. He is a marginal 2, right? But if Pickens plays as a 2 and now A-Rob is a 3, now he's gonna excel. And then Pickens is excelling because he can play as a 2. But that is all there only if you can get Deontay Johnson to play as a decent 1. He doesn't have to be a top of the league 1, because that 2 and 3 are a good 2 and 3. They're very good 2 and 3. You can argue that Pickens is in the top of the league on 2s, and then A-Rock can be in the top of the league on 3s, right? Versus, in my opinion, DPJ even though he's a solid 2, I think he is a solid 2, but not where I think Pickens can be. And Elijah Moore, for me, I guess, an enigma. Love him coming out of the draft, but right now it's more of an enigma on the A-Rob. But I see your face, Q. I see your face.
More of an enigma than. Well, I mean, like we know what we're gonna get out of A-Rob, if that's what you're saying.
Well, you get out of A-Rob around 400, 500 yards when he's the number 2. I think if he is
3 weeks of 25 yards.
Well, my whole thing is I think A-Rob will be a number 3. And if he's a number 3, I think he gets elevated.
He's falling on the 4th, 4th.
I think the matches that he can create against the 3s, I think he will excel in that. Now, if Deontay Johnson falls out of the back, and this is why I said the Ravens can go all the way to 2, right? I'm optimistic with my team. If Deontay Johnson falls out of the bandwagon, if he goes instead of on the higher side, on the lower side, I think that affects Pickens. I think that affects A-Rob. And then you're going to see that team go to 4th. Not to 3. They're going to go all the way to 4th. So for now, I have Browns 3, Steelers 2. As Ace said, I think it's a flip coin. It's just basically you're splitting hairs here.
Yep.
I think the upside of the Steelers a little bit more. I'm envy on the size that the Steelers have. I think also in that regards, but I think the Steelers, I have the 9. It's just a number 2. So I'm gonna go with 3 for the Browns. Okay. Anybody wants to say anything else? Because we all give our 3 and 2.
Well, I think that's perfect. It's 2.
Well, let me elaborate more on my 2.
Yeah, and I'll elaborate on my 2. Go ahead. But you know what, Q? I'll be gracious here. Go ahead.
Yeah. The Cleveland Browns at number 2 here. I feel like this is a fairly obvious choice. But in all seriousness, I'll put him here because Amari Cooper probably anybody outside of the Bengals, he's probably the most consistent wide receiver of anybody that we're talking about here. Just a consistent 1,000-yard guy. I thought he had close to a career year, if not a career year in some areas last year. And he did that while having a sports core injury that he had to get surgery for during the offseason. So maybe he's even better with the full year of Deshaun Watson. That connection looked really good between the two. I think this is the year where Amari Cooper, he's always been in this weird little 1B category as a wide receiver where he's he's a number 1 receiver and there's really no doubts about that, but he's not a premier wide receiver. He never gets those premier numbers where he has 1,200, 1,300, 1,400 yards plus or anything else like that. He always has pretty modest seasons. So I think this might be his best opportunity in his career to get one of those more kind of crazy yard totals. So I think he fits in there well. You look at the number 2 receiver, Donovan Peoples-Jones. He had about 838 yards last year, 3 touchdowns. Deontay Johnson, who you could argue was the number 1 receiver for the Pittsburgh Steelers last year, had 868 and no touchdowns. You can argue that that's a more desirable output from Donovan Peoples-Jones than what the Steelers gave you there. So I like what you can get out of it, DPJ. And then Elijah Moore, he is the one if player, and he's the biggest if player, I think, for this team. When you talk about the biggest role that they're relying on somebody who needs to step up in that role, that's going to be Elijah Moore. But I think he fits what they need there. If you look at some of the splits between him when he had Zach Wilson throwing him the ball versus when he didn't, it shows you what what most of the problem was for him in New York was that Zach Wilson just wasn't finding him for whatever reason. I know with the experience of Baker Mayfield and Odell Beckham, sometimes it just doesn't happen between 2 guys at wide receiver and quarterback for whatever reason. Maybe it happens for him here. I don't know what his yard total is going to be. I'm looking over here because I have my predictions for all the players on the team on the far wall over here. So I think high end, he would probably be at 850 yards this year. And I think that's a high end for him. When it comes to predictions, I think he's going to be somewhere between 500 and 850. So I think that's fine there. If you're looking at 3rd wide receiver, in total of production, but probably he's going to have a lot of chunk yardage, right? He's going to be the home run hitter. I look at this wide receiving room as a baseball lineup almost, right? You got your reliable on base guys, Amari Cooper, Donovan Peoples-Jones, and then you have your home run hitters in Elijah Moore, and then obviously to a lesser extent, Marquise Goodwin, who can step in, and he's been proven to be one of those guys who can get you a big play every once in a while there too. Then you look at some of the younger prospects, David Bell, 3rd round pick from last year. I still feel pretty good about his ability to kind of get open in the NFL and find some role for him. Cedric Tillman's another guy there. This is a pretty, like, it's not a super flashy room at the top, and it's a kind of like to the Ravens. It's a more, we built it to be this kind of way room where like the pieces are very specific for how they're trying to build it. But I do think it is relatively deep in that way. I think it's going to be a solid room. And I don't think Elijah Moore is going to really tip the scales for this team, whether they live up to this number 2 ranking or they do get eclipsed by Pittsburgh or Baltimore is going to be on the shoulders of Elijah Moore. And we'll see what happens there. But I feel pretty good about putting them at 2 here because of the consistency that we've seen, the consistent improvement from Donovan Peoples-Jones. I've never had super high expectations for him. So I thought he was always kind of a 800, low 1,000 yard kind of guy. I think that's kind of the wide receiver he's proven himself to be. And Amari Cooper, that's why I would feel comfortable putting them at 2 over Pittsburgh or Baltimore, where I just have more questions than I feel like I have answers necessary to put them at 2.
Tony?
Yeah, I mean, look, I get the question mark thing with Pickens. I don't know that Deontay is so much a question mark anymore. As like, look, the guy is just, quite possibly the best route runner in the league.
Do you think it's possible that Deontay might be on a trajectory to get worse?
No.
You think he's just going to stay at that level?
I think he's just going to be right around 1,000 yards every year, super consistent on like 3rd down type stuff. I mean, look, this is a guy who's getting 150 targets a year, I think over the last 3 seasons. And the reason he's doing this, and 538 has the numbers, but his open score rate, right? I mean, is how open he is on a down to down basis. Literally no one in the league is as good as him. He is for me like one of the, if not the best route runner in the league, one of the top 3. The guy is just super consistent in that way. The problem for Deontay, and the frustrating thing about Deontay, is that the other parts of his game, just haven't developed, right? And it's especially for him, it's the ability to have that knack, the yak ability, right? That run after catch ability, the ability to get open and then make people miss the open field and turn what is a 7-yard gain, what is a 10-yard gain into a 20, 25, 30-yard gain. But it's a problem of the Steeler offense in general, just their ability to get big plays.
Create explosives.
Create explosives. I mean, that was a huge problem for them a year ago. Now, the one guy who did that for them is, of course, George Pickens. And I think when we talk about number 1 receivers, is it Deontay? Is it Pickens? I mean, it has been Deontay the last couple of years. But if we're just talking about productivity, I mean, George Pickens nearly overtook Deontay Johnson last year on half the targets. And that's because he was so good in those 50-50 ball situations down the field. I mean, the guy had highlight catch after highlight catch. Obviously, the one in week 3 against the Browns was like that was like the highlight catch of the year. But I look, you guys know how I felt about George Pickens coming out of the draft, right? I mean, he was my wide receiver 1 in that. I thought he was the most talented player. And obviously all he did last year was kind of, not to say prove me right, but like, all he did is encourage me to believe in that. I think George Pickens is the most talented receiver the Steelers have. I think there's an argument to be made that he might be like the 2nd or 3rd most talented receiver in the division. Like, I think he is a special player. The problem for Pickens is that he has to get more open, right? His open score is much more average. And so if all he's going to do is live on 50-50 balls, then, he's not like the explosives are going to be there, but the explosives are going to be 30, 40 yards and not, obviously what makes Jamar Chase such an explosive player is that he can, we've seen this throughout his career, right? He can take a 10-yard run and turn it, or 10-yard catch and turn it into a 90-yard touchdown.
Take an hour out, and then next thing you know, he gone. And
exactly.
You worried about him doing that, and he cover him up, and he put a safety over top to make sure he can't get it. And T. Higgins comes out of nowhere, and okay, you forget about both of them. And then Tyler Boyd at the scene.
Right. And so I think for the Steelers, like if Deontay could ever evolve as a player, and Pickens evolves too, right? I mean, this team, look, they're never going to overtake the Bengals because the Bengals room is too deep. But I mean, this could be a really, really dangerous unit. But it does rely a little bit on, guys growing. I think for who they are right now, though, you have you have to me the most solid player in the league as far as route running and just getting open. That's why he has 150 targets a year for the last 3 years. That's Deontay Johnson. Now, people will point to his touchdown numbers. He didn't score a touchdown last year. He got a big fat 0 in that category. But I think that's just emblematic of the entire team. Right? I mean, this team last year just didn't score a lot of touchdowns. That wasn't a Deontay Johnson problem, right? I mean, George Pickens, who would all agree, had a great year for a rookie, he had 4 touchdowns, right? So one like George Pickens lit it up from a touchdown perspective either. And then, you're going as far as depth goes, like, look, you guys know me. I like Allen Robinson. Obviously, reports out of camp, mini camp. Who knows what to believe about that stuff? We're nice with Deontay or with Robinson. Well, I'll believe it when I see in the regular season. I mean, I think the thing with Robinson, the thing with this team overall in the receiver room, this goes for Frymouth as well. They got to make plays in the red zone. I think that's going to be a big part of why this team brought in Allen Robinson. But then beyond that, Ace mentioned him, Calvin Austin. It's an X factor in the room. Like, what are you going to get out of Calvin Austin? Because it's easy to just say, well, he's a small, fast guy. What I saw to him in camp last year before the injury was a player who is not just fast, but he's actually a very shifty route runner, was making plays down the field. But, it's hard. Like Ace said, we've literally never seen this guy play a down in the league. So I don't know what we're getting there, but boy, if they get anything out of that player, now you're talking about a team that's, 4 players that I like. Beyond that, I don't know. I mean, like I think there's going to be a real battle for who the 5th receiver is. So it's hard to even rate like anything beyond that because any of these players could be cut this time a month from now. But regardless, I mean, like, I think Deontay for me, best route runner in the league, and George Pickens is a player who I think, like I said, I think he could be the 2nd or 3rd best wide receiver in the division. So, yeah, for me, Steelers were 2.
Okay, we have a couple super chats before we go to the number 1. Will Tom be the same guy if he was picked by the Browns?
Look what they did to Deshaun Watson. Of course not. Look what they've done to Deshaun Watson.
That was 9 out of 10, Tony. 9 out of 10. That was good. I appreciated that one. That was a clever one. I didn't expect you to go there with that. Yeah.
As a Steelers fan, Ravens wide receivers are better than
what?
Bengals.
Bengals steal.
There's no way you're a Steelers fan and you have Bengal in your name.
Yeah.
There's no way.
He's kind of a Raven fan too, because like that's the only way, dog. That's the only way.
Who they here says OBJ equals Cooper. Bateman / Flower better than the other Browns receivers. That's from who they powered 9.
Also, we need to start the meta meme of like when people go, I'm an X fan, but this guy's good.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I like Fulham, but Odell Beckham's pretty good at football. You know what I mean?
They also, fans love to do that when like something happens to another team. We're like, hey, Steelers fan coming in peace. Like, sorry to hear about such and such. Like, no one gives
it's like, dog, you're not an ambassador.
Yeah,
How do you guys feel about there's a guy on Twitter, I'm not gonna say his name. He is a Browns fan, used to be a Patriots fan, said that he was a fan of Jamal Lewis, and that's how he kind of became a Browns fan. And so I was like, were you not a Ravens fan?
Maybe I probably followed us on Twitter.
Did you not follow like Jamal Lewis's like most of his career obviously was with the Ravens? So I was like, what was the difference, dog? And like if you were playing against him as a Browns fan, when Jamal Lewis scored a touchdown, did you cheer like that? I don't know, dog.
That's a weird one.
Hey man, he for the streets.
So Robert here says, hey Q, can you help remind the guys that DPJ have more yards than any wide receiver playing for the Steelers or the Ravens?
No, you shouldn't have said yards. You should have went touchdowns. And that might have been a little bit more valid. But I think Deontay had about 40 more yards than DPJ, but he did have 3 times the touchdowns than Deontay Johnson. Well,
now,
4.
Deshaun Watson played the last 5 weeks of the year, right? So let me look at some of DPJ's big stats with Watson. 4 catches, 31, 4 catches, 31, 1 catch, 2 yards, 1 catch, 13 yards. I mean, these guys have a real rapport. That's
spreading the ball out.
It's a great point. DPJ and
the ball
have a great rapport.
Bengals Steel here's telling you I'm a Bengals. And
nah, he's either a Ravens. He's probably a Ravens fan. He's a Ravens fan.
Bengals Steel. No, I'm not.
I don't want to get last year.
Look, so, like, what did you do in 2014, dog?
Yeah, that's a great point. That's a great point. Where did you fall in like the real torn on that one?
Like, is that really what we was doing?
Can lose. That's right. Can win, can lose.
Yeah, like when Perfect.
When
He
Jeremy
shot at
Hill
AB.
fumbled, what did you do?
How do you feel about that play?
Please tell us. Like, what did you do, dog?
Right.
When Ben
Also
came
week
back
1
in the
last year.
game,
I want to know week 1 last year, like when Minka blocked the extra point. What was the?
Did he like throw trash on Ben, and then when Ben came back, he was cheering?
Oh my God, he's back!
do you wear a split jersey?
Split jersey. Imagine a Bengals Steelers split jersey.
Dog, even if it was like, oh, well, both my kids play on the Bengals and Steelers, so I got to split. Like, nah, you can't be sitting like that in public. Like, come on, man. Hey, there's some split jerseys that there's no reason it can ever exist. Like the Brown Steelers split jersey that Joe Hayden tried to do. That's why he will never be in the Ring of Fame, because like, nah, dog, you can't do a split Steelers Browns jersey. What are you doing?
Now, my nephew that comments from time to time, play under review. He is a Bengals fan that is married to a Steelers fan. And I think she recently did like a do-it-yourself project with the PS5 controller. She made it Steelers colors. And I had to comment. I was like, you already know what to do with the other one. You
got to make the other one a full Bengal controller, right? You can't have a split one though. Like nobody can use that controller. It's got to be separate. You know, you can't. Nah.
Probably watch AFC North Talk together more than likely.
Shout out to them, by the way. Can you imagine a Browns fan in the stadium with a split jersey of Ravens Browns?
How you know they're a Browns fan? They got a split jersey on. You know what I mean? Like they Raven fans. I'm not claiming them. What you mean? Like I don't claim anybody who wears a split jersey unless they are related to two players on the team that there. If that's the case, I'll let the split jersey slide. I'm not even approving of it. I'm just letting it go. Okay. But a split jersey for split jersey's sakes, I got no respect.
Yeah,
absolutely no respect. You are a fan of the other split, dog.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. I'm a two-team guy. There was a guy that I met when I first moved to Orlando. He came in. It was like, wear your jersey for football day, and he came in with a jersey, and he was like, "Yeah, Bengals are my second team." I'm like, "What do you mean second team? We don't do second teams, bro."
They gonna call me Dr. Kumar when it comes to
the second team thing. I think you can have a favorite team from the other conference.
Yeah, national.
No, you can't. You can't. I'm
have
sorry.
like
That's bull. You cannot be a Pittsburgh and a Philadelphia Eagles fan.
Well, I'm not saying like you have jerseys of the other.
You're
team.
A coward because you don't want to lose.
You can like the guy that's on your fantasy team. You can like the guy that's on your fantasy team.
You can root for your fantasy team. Okay, but you cannot sit here and root for another team or another player to win it all because fantasy season is over by the playoffs. Okay, no, one team.
You can like other players and like them on other teams.
You can respect
not the whole other team.
Look, I think you go hard for one team, but there's a team in the NFC that if you're like, I don't mind.
I don't want to see you shedding tears over a team that's not your main. You know what I mean? I like Pat Mahomes, but when Pat Mahomes won the championship, I'm not like, oh my God, it means so much. It's just like, cool, Pat won the championship.
Now you can cheer for your bets. That you can cheer for, and that
that's different. That's different.
Now that you want to talk about exhilaration,
there's
nothing like
the degeneracy. See, this is why we can't keep enough players active because Tony out here
I got a lot of favorite players
selling these drugs.
I'm going to start buying every one of these players' jersey on NFL, like custom jerseys of every one of these guys they suspend. I'm going to get a wall behind me of just all the guys.
So over or under, guys. This is a poll for y'all in the chat. How many games is Tony betting in the preseason? I'm gonna go with 4.5. 4.5 game in the.
I'll bet the Steelers.
How many games are in the preseason? That's what
are you betting on the Hall of Fame game because the Browns are in it this year?
Yes, you know he is.
Oh, I'll bet against the Browns. Yeah.
I mean, you can't
playing in that one. Is Watson playing in that one? Because
probably not. I mean, like I think we'd be lucky if we see Josh Dobbs, right? I think we're gonna see a lot of Kellen Mond and DTR.
Oh, that's right. Well, yeah, you got to get DTR ready.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Yeah. Get them ready. You get them ready for what, Tony?
Well, they need that. He is the future. He is the future. He is the future there.
The future for the Browns.
One blue here says, Ace, when do you think we're going to get a Burrow contract announced? 10 years Mahomes deal. or will we fumble the bag?
I would hope that it's a 10-year deal because that's the way you really want to structure it, right? So that you can make adjustments. If they do it, generally they try to do it like right before the season. So we'll see. We'll see if they end up doing it. I would have hoped that it was done by now, but generally they wait like a week or two before the season.
And then there were those rumors in the offseason about T. That's just not happening, right?
Yeah, the T stuff, I don't know what's going on with T now. I know that they're working on it. It seemed like it was heading in the right direction, but something clearly hit a snag in that one. So,
Sonny, don't say it.
Yeah, because T. Higgins was like, yeah, I got the best agent in the world and all of this, and then hit a snag somewhere, man. So we'll have to see.
Oh, yeah. No. Sonny,
Sonny, don't say it.
Sonny, say
They play us week 1. Don't say it.
Say it. It's true now. I mean, if you can't get a deal with them, the next best thing to do. You don't
Stop
want to lose
it.
For nothing.
Stop.
Tom is 100 times better than Kanye.
Wow. He responded to the Kim K. It's the Kim K.
I was like, this is so
how
random.
did we get there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I mean, I know how he got there, but I'm like, how do we get there?
Okay.
Because it's July, Q. Because it's July.
Yeah. Look, we gotta. July is the time for us who do this stuff to get our own shot. You know what I mean? This is the mellow time where we can post ups, fakes, turnarounds, just to give you the same buckets we try to give you in September.
Okay, so let's go to number one. My number one, like everybody's number one, is
the Chiefs.
Bengals.
Mahomes.
All we had to say is what the Migos, right? You say that there's nothing else. We're talking about the Bengals as legit the number one wide receiving core in the league, right? I mean, you can. There's an argument with Miami. Some people have Miami. Okay, you could, I guess, but it's 1 and 2. 1 and 2. Whatever week, right?
I got the Migos out there in Baltimore. What you mean? I got Odell, Zay.
Well, let me not comment on that, but yeah, so Bengals. Ace, I'm gonna let you throw the flowers because I know that's your team.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, these three guys, they all bring something different to the table. The one thing I will say though is I think they're better than last year. At least the room is better than last year, just because of the guys that they've added to it. I felt like last year they lost a lot of depth. They didn't really have anybody outside of the Migos. So when you had an injury to T. Higgins and you had one to Jamar Chase, you had to figure out a guy that was going to step up. It ended up being Trenton Irwin, but I think we also saw that some of the other guys there just couldn't really do anything. And even Trenton Irwin in the Chiefs playoff game, he couldn't step up for Tyler Boyd in that moment. And so what I liked that they did this season was they kind of went out there. They kept Trenton Irwin, but they went out and drafted a couple of guys to add to that room. And I really am a huge fan of Charlie Jones. If you haven't watched him in his film, one of the games I actually watched was him against Joey Porter Jr. He is an exciting receiver to watch. A lot of people have been anointing him as, the Tyler Boyd heir apparent after this season. It'll be interesting to see if he does anything this season. But I like what they've done with the room. But obviously, Jamar Chase, I think, is ascending to a top 3 receiver in this league. Guy still got 1,000 yards last year, only playing in 13 games, which is crazy. The game that he was actually hurt in, the dude played in and put up crazy numbers. I think it was like 160 yards in the game with a hip that had a fracture in it. Dude is just unreal. T. Higgins is unreal. Tyler Boyd is taking a little bit of a backseat, still a dependable receiver. So, those guys, they're number one in the league. Some people would argue, like you said, Sonny, either Philadelphia or Miami. When it comes to all three, I'm going to go with Cincinnati because I don't think the other teams, they have anybody that rivals a Tyler Boyd at that position for their third guy. But, yeah, it's Cincinnati for me. Not a surprise for me on this end.
Tony.
Yeah, same, obviously, right? I mean, like the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, no one is coming close. I mean, well, first of all, there's not another receiver in this division that's even close to Jamar Chase, right? Like when I was giving my flowers to how good I think George Pickens can be, his ceiling is 2 in this division. And like maybe he could be better than T Higgins. And there's not a slight against T. Like I think T is a good player, but Jamar Chase is a top 5 receiver in the league, probably top 3, maybe even top 1, right?
He's the only person in the league you could bring up right now and say something like Randy Moss, and nobody gonna be like, okay, let's stop this.
Yeah, I mean his numbers last year, like you look at his numbers, and be like, well, you had a down year, only had 1,000 yards, right? I mean 9 touchdowns is good, but it wasn't double digits. But he only
league figured him out.
Yeah. Well, they did figure them out.
He missed like 4 games, right?
Yeah, he missed 5 games.
He missed 5 games.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I mean, this room is so good. And then, yeah, I mean, like they got a little deeper. Obviously, Charlie Jones, it's a rookie going in, so I don't know how many minutes he's really going to see, because why do they even need? They don't need to give him minutes, right? I mean, like if the room goes well, Charlie Jones might get like if he hit 20 targets, it'd probably be a good thing for this room for Charlie Jones. So that's a future thing, but like they are deeper. Like to Ace's point, like they are deeper. If they do have another situation where Jamar goes down and they need some guys to step up, it could be it could be like a Charlie Jones type, but regardless, they don't need it. I mean, like, I think everyone in this division is counting down the days. When is the T Higgins contract going to expire? When is the Tyler Boyd contract going to expire? Because then things get fun again. Okay, then there's hope and optimism in the rest of the division.
Is
but
T Higgins a free agent after this year?
Yes, he is, and so is Tyler Boyd. But they both say they're going to take hometown discounts, but no one's done it yet. So
I can see Boyd doing it, right?
And LeBron told us he was going to stay in 2010.
I will say this, Sonny. I have heard. I don't know if Tyler Boyd is taking a discount.
I don't think he would.
Based off of the way that the receiver money has changed. Yeah. The only way I could see that is if he signed like kind of similar to what Juju did and wanted to stay like 1 more year before hitting the market.
Yeah, but Juju wasn't productive. Like
yeah, but that's the only way I see Tyler Boyd like taking less is they get to like the AFC Championship or something like that and lose again, and he wants to run it back. That's the only way, because I've heard he feels like he's underpaid right now. And there was a point in time, if you were paying attention, he didn't show up to OTAs at first, and then he finally showed up. Yeah. And from what I heard, it was because he wasn't really happy with his contract or where it's at right now. Because obviously, when he signed, it's been reset, so he feels like he's kind of underpaid right now.
But where his age is, I think he would be more likely than Higgins, because Higgins is like, I mean, he's going to his.
Oh yeah, Higgins is going to get a bigger deal for sure. But
not only that, I don't think he gets a discount.
If a Jacksonville or somebody just threw a bag at Tyler Boyd, I think he'd take it.
Is Kansas City going to have cap space coming up soon?
I don't know.
Well, Kadarius Toney needs to stop getting his Twitter hacked. That's what he needs.
I don't even know what that's referencing.
Look it up. It's kind of fun.
Yeah.
By the way, just going back to the Juju versus, I don't know why Juju just catches some strays in this. Okay, first of all, we're talking about more productive. I don't remember Tyler Boyd having a 1,400-yard season. I don't remember that in his career. So just gonna
you forget that happened. Like Juju's 1,400-yard season.
I don't remember that happened.
What that actually happened?
Yeah, that happened. Also, I don't remember Tyler Boyd ever, winning a Super Bowl or having 4 clutch catches in a game-winning drive in a Super Bowl. So. Just want to make sure we're not slandering formerly great.
Formerly great.
Well, I meant that in both ways. Yeah. Former Steeler and formerly great.
Professor Chaos here says, has Damar Hamlin already won comeback player of the year? Yeah, I mean that's
yep.
That's fine.
Hey, look, man, it's the NFL, and I'm not advocating for this to happen, but we do live in a world where they could end up giving that thing to Deshaun Watson.
They will.
No way.
Didn't Alex Smith won it in the year he came back, right?
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He didn't even play that well.
If let's say Deshaun throws for 5,000 yards.
Yeah, 5,000 interceptions is more likely, but okay.
I'm just saying, let's live in the world. Let's live in the unlikely world where he throws for 5,000 yards, has 40 touchdowns and 8 interceptions. Who gets comeback player?
If Damar Hamlin plays for a minute, if he steps in the field, he's getting the comeback player of the year.
They gonna make a Damar Hamlin award.
They might,
but then they're gonna give comeback player of the year.
They
will
call it the Damar Hamlin comeback player of the year award.
They're gonna be the Damar Hamlin. Thank God you did not die, so the league couldn't be sued award. That's what it would be.
Yeah, because you're right. Alex Smith wasn't when Alex Smith won it. Didn't Big Ben was complaining that he should have won it? Isn't that the year?
Yeah, it's always an argument, man.
2020.
Yeah, wasn't that the
Yeah,
year?
no, Ben, that was the year Ben came back from the elbow,
That
right?
was the year Ben came back from the elbow injury, but it didn't.
And then Alex Smith
his
won
numbers
it
that
was
year
like
weren't.
3,000 passing yards.
There was a better who was second because there was probably a better candidate that year, but I don't think it was
so
Ben
many
now.
better. But like he returned from almost dying, so you got to give him back the comeback player of the year award.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, what are we doing?
Yeah,
But yeah, who won it?
I think there was an argument.
Hey, we're this.
I mean, I won't. I listen.
Tony, what if Baker Mayfield has a big season this year?
I hope he does.
Comeback player of the year.
Comeback player of the year. Well, I mean, listen, it was Geno last year, so it could be anybody. I mean, like, you know.
Well, I mean, come on. Well, the thing with Geno was like, what did he come back from? Because like he just kind of came up. Like it wasn't a comeback. It was just a return, or it wasn't even a return.
Was he even listed on the odds, the Vegas odds for comeback player of the year? He probably wasn't even listed.
Yeah, no. But this
Can
year,
Lamar Jackson win comeback player of the year?
Lamar?
Yeah.
No. All right, I got the vote here. I got the vote for 2020 comeback player of the year. You guys are right.
Yeah, it was Big Ben.
Alex Smith, number 1, with 49 out of 50 votes. But I want to know who the 50th voter was.
Steeler fan.
Oh yeah, that was
props to that guy who gave it to Big Ben Roethlisberger.
Hey,
Comeback player.
imagine there's gonna be a guy. There's gonna be a guy who stops Lamar Hamlin for getting a unanimous comeback player of the year award. And I want to know what's the situation that could brew up to make such a thing happen. And I feel like Deshaun Watson having a good year is the type of thing to make that kind of foolishness pop up. Like it's gonna happen. Somebody's gonna do it. Somebody's gonna make the argument. It's like, well, he only had like an average season.
Yeah, Ben's numbers that year weren't that bad. Ben's numbers that
No,
year.
Ben's numbers. That was the year that y'all went to. Y'all won the division.
Yeah, but he was.
And they went to the playoffs.
Yeah, but that was the end. That was the end of the year where it was like, oh, Ben's bad. The end of the year, like Ben was like, uh-oh. So yeah, they won. They won 12 straight.
They won 12 straight.
12
How many straight did y'all win in the playoffs?
12 straight. Playoffs that year were canceled because of COVID.
Nah, they happened. I remember watching.
People were.
It was on MVP. I think like 50 other million people watched them with me. According to Nielsen records, highest rated wild card game of the weekend.
That was
I forget who they played, but they got smacked. Yeah, was it? They got smacked that year. I don't think Joe Burrow was on the Bengals yet, so it couldn't have been them. Oof. Oh no, Joe Burrow was on the Bengals, but he got hurt that year.
No, that's the year before.
No, 2020.
2020 is when you got hurt.
Joe Burrow got hurt that year. Yeah, it was his first year.
Oh, that was his first year?
Yep, that was his first year.
Yeah, but he got hurt. So they didn't make the playoffs.
The backup quarterback running all over the Steelers.
I forget, but that team that beat the Steelers.
Yeah, I mean, again, the COVID year for me, I didn't really, like a lot of fans.
You got COVID brain? Got long COVID over there?
Yeah.
It's crazy. All I remember is that the great Mike Tomlin got beat by a substitute coach that year. That was crazy.
Yeah, and then the Browns fired that guy, which makes sense because.
Yeah, I mean, have you watched the special teams?
Okay, so with that being said, now we're gonna be moving to the defense in the next couple weeks. Before we go, a big shout out to the Patreons.
He had a good run
for sponsoring, basically, for supporting us. If you want to be a Patreon member, go check the link below. But shout out to Adam Holland, Dom Gazula, Luis Cousin, Leo Cell, Rayrack, Wesley, Worrell, and Christian Ra for being the top tier. Thank you all. Thank you for the support. I can't wait coming next week. Yes.
What week are we doing defensive tackles?
Next week.
We can do that next week.
Damn, I got a wedding to go to. I just remembered.
Right. By the way, logos are being updated. As you can see, the logos are being updated.
Why we got to bring attention to that? You know what I mean? Like I finally.
Oh, look at that new logo.
We didn't have to do that. We didn't have to do that. I didn't even make a Raven joke. I didn't even make a Raven joke, Sonny. What? It's more now. Okay.
That logo looks.
You know what?
I'm getting out of the L. I needed that. That
logo looks fresh.
I forgot the Ravens finished in last place.
Yeah, I was the L.
That's why you were consistent with like, hey, I need the new logo. I was wondering. I was like, the Ravens had the L.
I was harassing you. you.
I was the same as well. I was holding my contract negotiations until I got out of the L, until the Bengals got out of the L.
right.
You know what? Yeah, look. I was about to go on strike.
Last super chat here says Bateman over Moore. Shout out to all of you. Thank you for
Which more?
And I would like to see your rankings in the comment below. Thank you for the support. Make sure you like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you know when we come live. We'll see you next week.